I didn't plan to lose everything by noon. And I sure as hell didn't plan to change my life by sundown. But that's the thing about rock bottom. Sometimes it's hiding a trapdoor. And sometimes, if you're dumb enough or desperate enough, you open it. They say it happens fast, how your life can turn. Like a glass slipping off the counter, shattering before you even reach for it. For me, it happened in a 5-minute meeting with a manager I barely knew. I was laid off on a Tuesday. Didn't even get to finish my morning coffee. The guy didn't look at me once while he read off the HR script. Downsizing. Performance realignment. We appreciate your contributions. I sat there nodding like I understood any of it. I didn't. My job was nothing fancy, inventory control at a logistics warehouse. I scanned boxes, moved pallets, memorized floor plans in my head like a walking barcode. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to keep me afloat. Rent, groceries, occasional gas station pizza on Fridays. And now? Gone. No warning, no severance. Just a corporate shrug. I walked out with a cardboard box and 2 unread emails in my inbox. The parking lot felt like a mile wide. Gray sky overhead. Wind kicking at the edges of my hoodie. I remember thinking, this is how people vanish. Not in a blaze, but in a quiet stumble. When I got home, the first thing I did was open the fridge. Not for food, I just wanted to hear the hum. Some proof the world was still on. A half carton of eggs, a stick of butter, 1 expired yogurt cup. That was it. I slumped down at the kitchen table and stared at my phone. No notifications. No missed calls. Just a low battery and a cracked screen. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was suffocating. That's when Max called. Max is the kind of friend you keep around for the chaos. He's a bartender, part-time stand-up comic, full-time smartass. We hadn't spoken in a few weeks, but somehow he always called at the weirdest moments. You sound like someone just kicked your dog, he said. I got fired. Damn. You finally punched that vending machine. No. He was quiet for half a beat. Want to do something stupid? What kind of stupid? The good kind. The kind with caffeine and duct tape. I should have said no, but I didn't. Because when your life catches fire, sometimes you want to see what else can burn. We met that night in Max's garage, if you could call it that. It was more like a shrine to bad decisions. Old motorcycle parts, a dartboard with knife holes in it, a half-built drum kit, and a dusty espresso machine that looked like it hadn't seen action since the Obama years. He stood next to it like it was Excalibur. You remember this beast? He grinned. No. You were drunk when we bought it. Craigslist. $100. I stared at it. Chrome body, 1 broken knob, stickers all over the side. It smelled like burnt beans and ambition. I laughed. You want to open a coffee shop with this? He pulled a garage stool over and sat, lighting a cigarette like it was part of a ritual. Not a shop. A cart. I've got wheels. You've got desperation. It's a match. I don't know how to run a coffee business. Neither do I. That's why it's perfect. No expectations. It was insane. It was reckless. And it was exactly what I needed. By midnight, we'd made a list of what we needed. A generator, extension cords, coffee beans, milk crates, a folding table, signage. Everything either stolen from Max's kitchen or borrowed from friends too nice to ask questions. By 2 a.m., we had a name. Bitter Ends. Max loved it. I hated it. Which, of course, meant it stuck. At sunrise, we parked the makeshift cart outside a dog park downtown. Max ran to the corner store for milk. I stood there in a hoodie and jeans, trying to tape a hand-drawn menu to a milk crate, feeling like a con man about to get caught. Our first customer was a jogger. Late 20s. Headphones in, sweat pouring. You guys open? She asked. I blinked. Yeah, sure. What do you have? I looked at the machine. Then the cups. Then her. Coffee, I said. She nodded. I'll take 1. Max showed up right as I poured it. It was weak. Sloppy. I forgot to stir. She paid $3, took a sip, and smiled like we'd just served her something sacred. This is good, she said. Keep the change. She jogged away. Max looked at me. We're in business, he said. That first day we made $42. We burned the coffee, ran out of milk, and spilled an entire thermos in the back seat of Max's car. But people smiled. They paid. They came back. By the end of the week, we'd set up near the train station. Commuters lined up. Some brought their own cups. One guy tipped us $10 and said it reminded him of the old days. Whatever that meant. Word spread. Mostly because Max couldn't keep his mouth shut. He told everyone it started on a dare. Said I'd lost everything and bid it all on a $5 cup of coffee. Somehow, that turned into a story people wanted to be part of. We got an Instagram, a logo, stickers. Someone called us the little cart that could in a local blog. The city inspector stopped by once, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Technically, this isn't legal." We gave him a core to do, and he said, "Don't block the fire hydrant." And just like that, we were legit-ish. But it wasn't all coffee and compliments. One night, someone slashed our tires. No note, no witnesses, just rubber shredded, and a single empty Red Bull can left under the table like a calling card. Max wanted to fight someone. I wanted to quit. "Not happening," he said. "You started this. We finish it." I started it on a dare. Exactly. That night, we rebuilt the cart, added locks, reinforced the wheels. I stayed up till 3 a.m., sketching ideas for how we could build something better. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was something else. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it coming. The first time a stranger asked if we were franchising, I laughed so hard I nearly spit coffee all over the guy's shoes. "We're not even legal," I said. "We don't even have a business license." He grinned, holding his cup like it was gold. "Well, whatever you're doing, it's working." He walked off. I stood there with the buzz of his words still rattling around in my head. Franchising. Franchise. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I paced the apartment, the smell of stale coffee still clinging to my hoodie. I thought about the past few weeks, how we started with nothing but a busted machine and Max's bad ideas. And somehow people kept coming. People who didn't owe us their time or money, but showed up anyway, day after day, because it wasn't just about coffee anymore. It was about grit, honesty, something raw and real in a world that felt increasingly fake. The next morning, I opened a notebook and wrote 3 words at the top of a blank page: 1-year plan. Max rolled in late, half asleep and eating leftover chili out of a Tupperware with a fork. "What's this?" he asked, nodding at the notebook. "Growth," I said. He blinked. "You mean like profits?" "No," I said. "I mean more carts, more places, more people who were like us, lost, screwed, looking for something that didn't feel like a dead end." Max stared at me for a long second, then grinned. "You're actually serious. Scary, right? We got our first permit 6 weeks in. Took everything we had in savings and favors. The city made us jump through flaming hoops, fill out paperwork thicker than a phone book, and get the espresso machine certified, whatever that meant. Then came the part that still freaks me out when I think about it. We hired someone. Her name was Raina. She was 19, sharp-eyed, and fast as hell behind a coffee bar. Max met her through a friend at a dive bar. She needed work, and we needed hands. On her first day, she said, "I don't smile for tips," and then made a cappuccino so perfect it brought a guy to actual tears. No joke. He said it reminded him of Rome. Rome. She was the real deal. After Raina came Devin, then Jasmine, then Leo, each one with their own reasons, their own stories, their own baggage. They weren't just employees. They were us. Earlier versions of me and Max, people who needed a foothold. We trained them hard, paid them what we could, gave them a voice in how we ran things. Some weeks, Max and I didn't take home a dime just to keep them covered. But it felt right. It felt good. By month 3, we had 2 more carts running, one near the university, one outside a co-op grocery store. I stayed up late building them from scrap, patching together plumbing and power with whatever we could afford. Max handled branding, marketing, stickers and cups and slogans. His favorite was, "We serve ambition by the ounce." Mine was simpler: bitter ends, better starts. We fought a lot. About money, about menus, about whether to serve oat milk or not. But we never fought about why we were doing it. That part stayed solid, even when the money got weird. One day, Max showed up with a check. It was folded in half, but I could still see the zeros. Too many zeros. "Who gave you this?" I asked. "Investor. From Instagram. Says he loves the story. Wants in." I stared at the paper like it was poison. "What's the catch?" "He gets 40%. Of what?" "Everything." I laughed. "No. You didn't even read the terms." "I don't need to." He didn't help us duct tape milk crates in the rain. Max didn't argue, but I saw the flicker in his eyes. The itch. The dream. Money changes people. Or maybe it just reveals them. That night, I walked the city alone. Ended up in the alley behind the dog park, where it all started. The cart was still there, our first one. Retired now. Scratched. Faded. But standing. Like a monument to chaos. I put my hand on the side panel and whispered, Not yet. Because I knew we were close. Something big was coming, and I needed to be ready. I woke up to pounding on my door. Not knocking, pounding. The kind that makes your heart jump before your brain even boots up. It was Max. Disheveled, eyes wild, hair matted like he'd been sleeping in a truck stop. He shoved a newspaper into my chest before I could even speak. Front page, local business section, from sidewalk to spotlight, the Bitter End's coffee phenomenon. Below it, a glossy photo of me and Max, standing behind our cart, both of us mid-laugh. It had been taken a week ago by some kid with a Canon who said he was doing a project on urban entrepreneurship. I read the article once. Then again. Then I sat down on the floor. Because right there, at the bottom of the second column, it said, "Sources confirm a private equity firm has approached the Bitter End's founders with a 7-figure acquisition offer. The founders declined to comment." "What the hell is this?" I asked, holding up the paper. Max looked sheepish. "Okay, so I might have talked to someone." "You might have?" "This says 7 figures, Max. That's not a rumor. That's blood in the water. I was just testing the waters, seeing what people were saying. You said we wanted to grow, right?" "I said we wanted to build, not sell." He sank into my couch, hands clasped, eyes on the floor. It's getting big, man. Fast. And I don't know if we're ready." I paced, heart racing, my mouth dry. It wasn't just about coffee anymore. Now there were lawyers sniffing around, corporate buyers, vultures dressed like consultants. And Max, he was wobbling. The cracks were forming, the kind that ruin good things. 2 days later, Raina called me from the co-op location. "There's a suit here. Wants to talk to someone in charge." My stomach sank. I got there in 20 minutes flat. He was waiting outside in a charcoal jacket and expensive shoes, sipping a drink he clearly didn't like. "Mr. Mercer," he said, extending a hand. "Aaron Glassman. Devlin Partners." Devlin. The name from the article. He gave me the smile of a man who's already signed the deal in his head. "I won't waste your time," he said. "We love what you're doing. We want to help scale it nationally. Storefronts, drive-thrus, e-commerce. You'll have resources. Freedom. We just need your vision and the brand." I stared at him. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "What happens to the team?" He smiled again. Slick. Controlled. "We keep what works." I didn't shake his hand. I told him I'd think about it. Which was a lie. I already knew. I wasn't selling. Not now. Not like this. That night, I told Max. He didn't take it well. "We're broke half the time, Eli. We work 18-hour days. What are you holding on to?" "I'm holding on to the reason we started this." He stood up, pacing. "The reason we started this was because you got fired and I was drunk." "No," I said quietly. "We started this because we wanted to matter." He didn't answer. Just grabbed his keys and left. And that's when I knew it. We were on different pages now. Same cover. Different books. The next morning, I found Raina waiting outside my apartment. She held a cup of coffee out to me, perfectly made, exactly how I liked it. "Max quit," she said. "Walked off mid-shift. Didn't say where he was going. I didn't know whether to be angry or hurt. Maybe both. But I nodded. Then I guess it's just us." She didn't flinch. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. And somehow, that mattered more than all the money in the world. Over the next month, we rebuilt from the inside out. We scrapped the cart designs, replaced them with mobile kiosks, modular, weatherproof, easy to replicate. Raina helped train new staff. Devin took over scheduling. Jasmine redesigned the website. Leo figured out a supply chain workaround that cut our costs by 20%. It was no longer just my story. It was ours. And people felt that. They didn't just come for coffee anymore. They came because they wanted to believe that something small, something raw and scrappy and built with hands, could still survive in a world of algorithms and margins. And every time I poured a cup, I remembered what it felt like that first day at the dog park. Scared, unemployed, utterly unsure, but alive. And then Max came back. He showed up one evening, just as we were closing. His hoodie was soaked from the rain, and his eyes looked different, heavier, but clearer. "Is it too late to be part of the story again?" he asked. I stared at him for a long time, then nodded. "Not if you're still willing to fight for it." Max came back a quieter man. Not less funny, not less him. But something had shifted. He no longer spoke in slogans. He listened more. Didn't interrupt meetings. He didn't even ask to run the Instagram account again, which was maybe the surest sign. We never talked about the offer. The almost sale. The way we nearly cracked. We didn't need to. Instead, we worked. And for the first time, everything started to hum. Like the gears had finally clicked. 6 months in, we broke even. 7 months in, we turned our first real profit. By month 8, we opened our 5th cart, this one in a converted shipping container with exposed brick and steel stools bolted to the sidewalk. It was our most ambitious spot yet, parked on the corner of a food truck alley in a part of the city we once couldn't afford to drive through. People called us the startup that refused to grow up. The media spun stories about 2 misfits and a caffeine rebellion. The truth was messier than that. Dirtier. Beautiful in the way scraped knees and cheap victories always are. We weren't polished, but we were honest. And people showed up for that. Then came the night we almost lost everything. It started with a fire. The warehouse we'd been using to prep beans, store equipment, and house our first cart, the one from day one, went up in flames. Raina called me first. I was brushing my teeth when she screamed through the phone. "It's gone, Eli. It's all gone." I didn't ask questions, just drove. By the time I got there, the street was lit in blue and red, fire hoses snaking across the pavement, steam rising from a blackened skeleton of metal and ash. No one was hurt, but our heart, our roots, had burned. Someone said faulty wiring. Another said arson. The inspector shrugged. Could have been either. I walked the perimeter until sunrise, shoes wet, clothes reeking of smoke, eyes dry but raw. Max showed up at dawn, no words, just a hand on my shoulder. We stood in the silence like 2 soldiers staring at the remains of a battlefield. "It was just stuff," I said. He nodded. But it was our stuff. The next morning, I sent an email to the team. Subject line, "We're not done. Body, come to the lot. Bring gloves. Bring coffee. We rebuild today." No one asked questions. They just showed up. And that's when something cracked wide open, in the best way. People started dropping by with tools, plywood, thermoses, insulation panels. A guy from a nearby art collective offered to paint a new sign. A woman from the bakery down the street brought 4 trays of muffins. Even the city inspector rolled up and said, "Don't tell me how you got that permit. Just make sure it's up to code this time." We had a new kiosk built by the end of the week. Better than the last. And on the roof, Max spray painted the words in huge white block letters. "Start small. Burn brighter." 3 days later, a young woman named Kira applied to be a barista. I asked her what drew her to Bitter Ends. She said, "I saw the fire on the news. And then I saw you reopened 3 days later. I figured anyone who moves that fast deserves my time." We hired her on the spot. And just like that, momentum took over. We got featured in a national business podcast, then a morning show, then a segment on 60 Minutes called The Rise of the Micro Empire. People across the country started reaching out. High school seniors in Nebraska, single dads in Michigan, bartenders in Portland. They all said the same thing. "Your story made me believe I could do something." We weren't just slinging espresso anymore. We were igniting something. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Then the letter came. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper. Typed. Clean. Simple. "We see what you're doing. We want to help." And below that, an address in New York City. I stared at the letter for over an hour. No contact name. No company. Just that line. "We see what you're doing. We want to help." And an address in Manhattan, somewhere near the Flatiron District. Max thought it was a scam. Raina thought it was bait. I didn't know what to think. But I booked a train ticket anyway. Because if there's one thing I'd learned, it's this. Sometimes the doors you fear most are the only ones worth opening. The building was old, stone exterior, tall arched windows, the kind of place that had history bleeding through the brickwork. I half expected to walk into a law firm or a foundation gala. Instead, a guy in jeans and a hoodie greeted me at the door. "Eli Mercer?" he asked. "Yeah. Come on up. We've been waiting." I followed him through a winding hallway into a high-ceilinged office that looked like a startup and a library had a love child. Hardwood floors. Exposed pipes. Books everywhere. A whiteboard filled with scribbles that looked like plans, dreams, and caffeine-induced revelations. And there, waiting with a calm smile and a cup of coffee in hand, was the only person in the room wearing a suit. "I'm Jonah," he said. "Big fan. Of the coffee, of the people behind it." He waved me to a seat. "What you've done in a year is statistically impossible," he said. 5 carts. Dozens of employees. Grassroots traction. 0 outside funding. It's the kind of case study professors dream about. I shifted in my chair. I didn't come here to be dissected. He chuckled. Fair. I'm not a vulture, Eli. I'm a builder. Like you. Then he handed me a folder. Inside, a proposal. Not a buyout. Not a takeover. A partnership. Jonah ran a venture incubator called the Rootline Initiative. They back passion-first founders with capital, resources, and, his words, just enough structure to scale without killing the soul. This would let you open 20 carts in 6 cities, he said. In 6 months. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I don't want to sell the mission. You wouldn't. That's the difference. We don't want to own you. We want to fuel you. He slid over a second page terms. Clean. Transparent. No fine print traps. And at the bottom, a line that caught my eye. Founder retains full creative control. I left the office without giving an answer. Because this was big. Too big to answer in the same hour. I'd stepped off a train still smelling like diesel and train station pretzels. I called Max that night. Told him everything. He was quiet for a moment. Then said, sounds like they actually get it. They do, I said. So what's stopping you? I stared at the ceiling of my cheap hotel room, paint peeling in corners. I think I'm scared. Of what? That if we go big, we lose what made it matter. He didn't argue. Didn't push. He just said, then let's make sure we don't. 2 weeks later, we signed. Not in a boardroom. Not with champagne. But in our third cart location after hours, under string lights, with Raina pouring cortados and a sharpest standing in for a fountain pen. We toasted with cold brew and chocolate muffins. I looked around at my crew, my family, and said the only thing I could. This is ours. Still, the next 6 months were a blur. 6 cities. 24 carts. One hell of a learning curve. We built fast, but we built right. Every new team trained in-house. Every cart had a local partner. We didn't franchise. We empowered. We mentored. We started an incubator of our own. Beeline. A program to help others like us, fired, burned out, underestimated, start their own coffee stands. Their own second chances. We told them the truth. That it's hard. That it hurts. That it breaks you before it builds you. But that it's worth it. Because every time someone starts something real, the world shifts just a little. By the 1-year mark, Bitter Ends wasn't just a name. It was a movement. And the only thing more surprising than how far we'd come was how much further we still wanted to go.